So before we add the validation, so we have seen that the toast is not working. So let's check why. So we have imported everything here, and also we have the toast here, but as I said, it's not working. So why? We need to register the toast. So we did not register the toast. So if you check here, so you need to import the toast like this from here inside your main.js file. So here we need to import it and use it. Okay, so that's why it's not working. We need to call the use method and we give it the toast. Okay, so I did not do this step when we added the package. So let's now see. So now it will work. So if we choose an image, so we have here our image. If we compress the image, so it's compressed, but it's not showing. Why it's not showing? And we have already added this. So let's check the console. So we don't have any error. So what is the problem here? We need also to import the CSS file. So we did not import the CSS file. So that's also we need to import it. So let's try again and see if it will work now or not. So let's choose an image. So here is an image, and now let's hit compress, and now we have the image compressed successfully. Okay, so now we have the toast notification. Now let's move to the validation. And to add validation, so we will use Vue composable, and Vue composable will make us separate our validation roles from our components. So inside src, let's add another folder, composables, and inside let's add file which is use validator .js. So the file must start with use. Okay, so use validator.js, or use, let's change it to file. I think file is better. File validator. We are validating file. So the first thing we need to do, let's import also the toast. So we need to use the toast to display the error messages to our users. So let's bring it from here and use it here. And what else we need? So we need to define our function and export it so we can use it. So export function, use valid, or use file validator, and this function what we'll do. So let's add. So the contents. So the first thing we need is to define the toast, so we can display the images, or not images, but the validation errors. So next we need to add. So let's define another function. So this one we'll call it validate file, and this one will receive the file, and here we need a row. And once we have the file, so we need to define an array that contains the allowed types, which are extensions that we accept. So we accept image /jpeg, also image /png, and also image /webp. So these are allowed types we accept. Also we need the max size that we accept. So let's define a new variable. So let's call it max size in bytes. And to convert, or to give the size in bytes, so we need to use 5, which is 5 megabytes multiplied by 1024, and and again multiplied by 1024, and we will get size in bytes, okay, which means 5 megabytes. Next, we need to check if we don't have a file. If there is no file, which means that the user has clicked on compress image without choosing a file. So in this case, we will add an error message. Let's use here the toast, which is this one. Let's copy and paste it here. And we tell the user, please select an image to upload. Okay. Next, what we need, so before we move to the next, so we need to return here false, which means that the validation is false. Next, we need to check for the extensions. So now if we have the file, so we need to check the allowed types array if it includes the file dot type. If it doesn't include the file of dot type, which means that the user is uploading PDF or text or an image which we don't support, or an extension that we don't support. So in this case, we will display another message and we tell him invalid type. So let's change it here to invalid file type, and we tell him that only JPG, PNG, and G or WebP are allowed. Okay. Let's see, so we have invalid file type, only JPG, PNG, or WebP allowed. Let's make it here lowercase. What else we need? We need to check for the size now. So if file dot size, so the size will be in bytes. So we need to check if it is greater than max size in bytes. If yes, so if yes, we will display an error, and error will tell the user that the file is too large. So the maximum size is 5 megabytes. And same thing we return true. Finally, if no one of these tests is true, so we return true, which means that the validation is done successfully. And finally here we return the validate file, so we can use it inside our component. Okay, so let's check again what we have here. So first we define our function here. Next we get toast. Next we have another function that takes the file as param. Next we have the allowed types array, and here we define the max size. So the size will be in bytes, so we need to convert 5 megabytes to 5 megabytes to only bytes. Next we check if we don't have a file. We display a message telling the user that you must select a file. Next we check for the allowed files if we have the same extension, or if it is not here, not if it is here. If it is not here, we say that it's invalid file type, only JPG, the PNG, and the WebP are allowed. Okay. Next, we check for the size. If it is greater than the megabytes or the 5 megabytes, we tell the user that the file is too large, the maximum size is 5 megabytes. Finally, if nothing of this is true, we return true and we return the validate file. So now we can use it inside our components. Let's start with, or let's use it inside the home component. So since the home component imports and uses all the components that we have already defined, so let's first import it so we can use it. So here we have toast. So let's add here const and get the validate file, and here use file. Where is it? So use file validator. So it's not imported. Okay, we can import it manually. So let's import here. Use file validator from, and it's inside or outside the, so here composables and use file validator. So now we have the validate file function. All we need to do now is to use it, and where we will use it. So we will use it inside the display function. So here, so let's copy this and check if validate file, and we give it the file that we have here. So if it is true, we will, or it will check if the file is valid or not. So if it returns true, so we will proceed and display and read the file. If we have an error, so we will display it. But this will not work if the user did not choose a file. So for example, let's choose text file. So here we have a PDF. So as you can see, invalid file type, only JPG, PNG, WebP are allowed. Okay, so I have chosen a PDF file. But if the user clicks on compress, so we have something went wrong, try again later. So we need to tell him to choose a file. So this validation here, so it will not work for the empty file. So we need to add it inside our, here inside our compress image. So let's do that now. So we need also to use the same function, which is validate file, but here we will give it the data.chosen image.file selected, which is the file that the user has selected. So if it is null, that means that the input is empty. If it is, or if it has a file, that means that the user has chosen a file, okay? So let's hit compress file. So as you can see, please select an image to upload, okay? So what else we are testing is size. Okay, let's do something. Let's change the size here. So since I don't have large size that have more than 5 megabytes, let's change it only to 1 megabyte, and let's find a file that has more than, so this file has more than 1 megabyte. Let's use it. So as you can see, file is too large. The maximum size is 5 megabytes, okay? So let's change this back to 5 megabytes. Let's bring back the file that I have chosen. So let's use it again here. So now it's here. So let's hit compress and image compressed successfully, and we have 78 kilobytes instead of so it has before. Let's check what is the size that, so it has 2 megabytes. Okay, so now we are done with the first project using Vue.js. So now we need to move, but before we do that, let's do something. Let's clear, before we move to the React, let's clear the form. So when the user compressed the image, so we clear the form and we keep only the details here. Okay, so let's add a function that will do that. So let's call it, let's move down, so not here but inside the home page. So let's move down here and add function. Let's call it reset field or fields. And here inside what we have, so we can do something. Let's use the data.chosenImage and we give it, or we used spread operator to give it the initial image state. So that's all. And we can use this function here. So when after the try and catch, so we used finally, which is the final thing that we do. And here we reset the fields. So reset fields. Okay, so that's all. So let's see now, let's refresh the page. Choose compression level, choose PNG. Let's drag and drop an image. So here is our image. So let's compress the image compressed, and as you can see, the input or the form has been reset to the default value, and here we have the name and the other information of the file.